everyone. I'd like to call the May 17th, Wednesday, May 17th meeting of the
I'm sorry,
Wenham.
Rick, I'm sorry. Was Catherine coming to take minutes?
No, we were recording this for her to take minutes from
Okay,
later.
all right, thank you. I thought
But
she
it is
said
being
she was trying
recorded.
to
You
be
all
here, but
signed in,
thank you.
right? to
Okay.
that? Yeah. On Wednesday, May 17th at 6:33 p.m. And I want to welcome everybody and thank you, Joe, for your help and pulling this together. My goal tonight was mostly just, as you see the topics here, but one important thing I felt was topic number 2, to officially recognize the passing of the chair of the committee, Harriet Davis. And I just want to read for the record a couple of paragraphs that I put together so that it would become part of the permanent town history. We would like to acknowledge the work of Ms. Harriet Davis, who has recently passed. Ms. Davis was instrumental in the establishment of the Community Preservation Committee. We have to think back to the conversations around whether we should demolish the existing town hall or build a new one or renovate the existing building. One way forward was to adopt a CPC regulation for the town to allow the CPC funds to pay for the construction debt. Ms. Davis was instrumental in the effort. The town people agreed to preserve the building, one of the only examples of late Italianate Victorian architecture in a public building in the Commonwealth, in one of the first CPC projects. Over the years, she played a role in championing other projects, including work at the Wenham Museum, the Veterans War Memorial, and the Community House. And I just wanted to have something to go in the record to say that she was there at the beginning and continued to be a force.
I think that's nice.
Very
Thank you.
nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, before we go much further, I think that we ought to identify who's here for the meeting for the minutes.
Thank you, Leo. Please just do a round robin. Trudy,
Judy, here,
and you're representing?
Housing Authority.
Alden Drake at large.
Leo Maestranzi, the Conservation Commission.
John Cusolito, the Recreation Board.
Janet Bird at large.
And Rick Woodland, Vice Chair, representing the Planning Board. Thank you. Next, a little administrative stuff. There were a bunch of us were at the meeting in April 1st. I tried to follow as clearly as I could Ms. Tinsley's format, but do we have any comments or changes or typos? Or
A couple of little typos.
please?
Rick, I think you were referred to as Ms. somewhere in the body. That's all. There might have been one other small typo.
Oh, well, I haven't.
Let me open it up. Here, here it is. Let me open it up.
Oh, I see it. Thank you. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. If we all agree.
Can we
Mr.
just have another
Hammerson?
moment?
Oh, the other one, John?
Just a moment, please. I'm
Sure.
looking for the other one.
Oh, Alden, sorry. Thank you.
I'm getting close.
We're good. A typo, period 1.1, the third sentence, a typo was corrected.
That was it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve the minutes as revised.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? I think we need to do roll call. Joe, correct? We are on Zoom.
Yes.
Roll call vote.
Trudy, yes.
Leo, yes.
Alden, yes.
Janet, Janet, yes.
John Cusolito, yes.
Rick Woodland, yes. And the motion has passed unanimously. Thank you. Next option, I just wanted to see who was planning on requesting reappointment. If you're uncomfortable talking about that, that's okay too. But I hope you all have plans to come back and just talk a little bit about your thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, Leo here.
Yes, Leo?
At town meeting, there was discussion about term limits. And I think that's possible for the town meeting to talk about term limits for the at-large members, but I don't think it's possible to talk about term limits at the town meeting about committee-appointed members, because if a committee unanimously or votes in one of their members, wants one of their members to be on the CPC, I don't think there's anything else, according to the rules, that the town can do about it. Wrong or right, would you say?
Correct
Maybe
me if I'm wrong, but I believe a bylaw was recently changed to allow the members to CPC who's representing the required seats, not the at-large. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that a bylaw was changed so that there were not term limits for these required positions.
Trudy, I don't believe there was term limits before the law was changed.
Well, I would agree with you, but somebody felt that it had to be changed. And I think that was Harriet, and she worked with maybe Paul Weaver going back to the older days. But
I don't
the
think it was
bylaw
Harriet.
was changed, but, and I believe it received the AG's approval.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull up the bylaw here. I think you're right, Trudy, but I'm just gonna try to pull it up here. You guys can continue. I'm just gonna try to look it up.
We're gonna, Leo, so I think what we're gonna do is while Joe's researching that, could we just come
Move
back
on.
to you? Yeah, okay, great. Other people want to talk about their thoughts about
Sure,
reenlisting?
I don't mind, Rick, I don't mind. I'm at large. I was appointed through 2024. I'm very happy to re-up next year if the select board wants me to continue. I'm only in my first term. What is the official date? Is it June 30th that we all expire, June 30th?
Yes.
Okay. So July 1st, I'm willing to start a new 3-year term, July 1st next year.
Good, okay, good.
And if the things stay the same, Alden, you'll have to reapply. They usually send out an email near
Okay,
the end of the year, so they'll ask for your interest. So be on the
Sure.
lookout for that next
That's
year.
part of why, thank you, Trudy. That's part of why we're having this conversation, because if you aren't aware that your term is coming up and you want to stay on, as Trudy's correct, it now is time to speak up your interest for this year.
So can I ask, Alden, not just Alden, but I got an email from Michelle. I think it was May 10th. And it
Yes.
said, if you are did anyone else get this email? If you are receiving this email, it's because your time is up on a committee or committees or whatever. And please respond whether you would like to still be considered. So I emailed her back and said, yes, that I'm on 2 things that I would like to be reconsidered, Wenham Human Rights and CPC. And then I got thinking about it and thought, okay, because Joe, I think it was you, Joe, I'm not sure, posted something on our Facebook page with the whole graphic about committees you could be involved in. And in the lower right-hand corner was highlighted in yellow and said, incumbents need to reapply. So I thought, oh, okay. So I emailed Michelle back on Friday. I knew she wasn't there, but and said, so I looked at this graphic on Facebook, I think from Joe. So do I need to reapply literally? Because the email I got made me feel like I was done. So very nicely on Monday, she said, thank you very much. Yes, she had talked to Steve and that, yes, in fact, I did need to reapply. I should send an email, which I did. She said, just send a basic email. I would like to reapply to the select board, copy it to her. And I did that and she thanked me and whatever. So I'm only telling that whole long crazy story because it's kind of weird because Martha, who's on human rights with me, and she's also up this spring, she didn't get that email. So I
Are
don't know
you,
if anyone,
excuse me, are you at large or are you appointed by your committee?
I'm at large.
At large, okay, at large,
Yeah.
at large, it's up to selectmen, it's not up to Michelle
Right,
Bailey.
no, I
or
understand,
anybody else,
I
it's up to
understand that,
selectmen.
but
And it's not up to
So-
Michelle Bailey, it's up to the selectmen. And,
So
and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
I'm,
she means Michelle in the town administrator's office.
so so
it's-
maybe I'm the only at-large person up this year. Maybe that's why I
Correct.
received.
You
Janet,
are-
I believe that's the
Alright,
case.
So I just wanted to make sure if anyone else got that email, they need to understand they have to also say, hello,
Right.
I would like to be reappointed. That's all.
Yeah.
Joe, would you mind taking a takeaway on this, just to check with Michelle in the administrator's office that she appropriately reached out to all the committees? Because the Human Rights Committee is kind of new, so maybe it's just slipping under her radar.
Absolutely. It was my understanding, Mr. Chairman, that she sent it out to all members of all boards and committees that have upcoming expired terms. But I'll see if that one kind of flew under the radar for whatever reason. But if Martha Brennan's term is expiring, she definitely should have gotten an email. So I'll
Yeah,
confirm.
definitely. Okay, that's,
Yep.
thanks, Joe. Thank
Yep,
you.
no problem.
Great. John, you're part of a committee, so you want to, so for the rest of us, I think, are not at large. We're part of an organization who sends a representative. And I hope you folks are all planning to ask to be reappointed as well.
I plan on it.
Yes.
Okay, great. Me too. Me too.
But,
Yeah.
but Mr. Chairman, it's completely up to the committee and nobody else.
That is correct. That is correct.
Correct.
That is correct. Yeah. And Joe, did you have a chance to find out that bylaw change yet?
I'm still looking. I actually
Okay,
texted.
no worries. I just
Steve.
want to get back to you because we're about ready
Okay.
to cycle
Yeah.
on.
Joe, if you go into general code, it might be sitting under new laws on the
Yeah, that's
website.
one I'm on currently right
Okay.
now, just looking through it.
It may have been
Okay,
done at the fall
We
town
will
meeting.
leave that topic open, Joe, and
Sure.
when you can, just chime in, raise your hand, whatever. Is there anybody raise their hand? I don't know how to watch that. If I can see
Let
that.
me take a look here.
I think you may notice the bottom of the agenda today, folks, that for the meetings that I run, I'd like to have a more community engaged meeting. It might be a little tougher when we're discussing specific proposals, but at least when we're just meeting as a group, that we can have as much input from the public as possible.
There are no hands up currently, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Next
Excuse me,
topic
excuse-
4. I'm sorry?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
When I meant to ask for a roll call, I think also, because we're new at this, I think also we should ask if there's any town attendance at the meeting, because they should go into the, I think, the minutes also.
Oh, I don't know, Joe, we'll
This is an open meeting, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah.
Will the clerk be able, the clerk be able to see this video of people here or just a recording?
Should be able to see I should say it depends on the display here, how many people are on it. If it only holds, I think, 6 people at the top here. But I'll identify myself, Joseph Passamato, Assistant Town Administrator.
And maybe we should identify that Deidre Peretti and Patrick Wydell are also on the
Yeah,
meeting.
they just recently came into the room here.
So they're both
Yeah.
on, so maybe we should put them on?
I don't
We're
know how
not- I'm
I
not
feel
sure.
about that. I mean, it's up to the group. I don't know if anything is legal about it or not. I'm not an expert in meeting law. So we did in the recording mention those 2 parties. I just don't know, like, if you have a meeting in person, you don't usually say so-and-so is here and so-and-so is here. But we could at least say there were members of the community present. We could probably number them, but I don't know that we can identify them without some kind of basis for doing that. But
I don't think the
thank you.
public needs to be identified.
I think you're right, Mr. Chairman, until they speak, until they want to be
Until
known.
they speak, then they have to identify their name and
I
town
think
and,
you're right.
and address. Great, thank you. Next topic 5. So I'm new. I've only been doing this since the fall. Many members here have been on multiple rounds of funding. In your experience, what's been working? What doesn't work? What can we make better? Yes, sir. Leo.
I don't think we have any shortage of applicants for the amount of money we have. I've noticed over the years that some applicants appear a lot more than others. You can tell by if we get a list of the money we've passed out and who we passed it to over the years. That might be a nice thing to get, is a list of all the recipients of our grants each year, and maybe even add up, like you do in a statement, add up when the same recipient gets another grant, you put the total, and then another grant, the total. And it's nice to have that too, because down the line, if we only have so much money and there's two recipients or two applications that sound just as worthy to us, and one of them's received several grants over the years and the other one hasn't received one yet, that might swing us one way or the other. And that's just a thought I've had on my mind for a while.
Trudy, ma'am?
You called on me, right?
Yes, Trudy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, so asking what works and what doesn't work, I don't know if it's the responsibility of somebody at town hall to review the applications before they come to us, or if it should be like the chair and somebody to go in and review them to make sure everything's there. And so that we're not getting applications that's being rejected on missing information alone. So
Can we hold that there? Okay, good idea. I just want to go back to finish up Mr. Mastronzi's idea.
okay,
Leo, I agree. That would be a great tool for us to have. And I will ask somebody at town hall to go through the records and produce that list. I think you're right to see historically where we've spent our money and where the town's money's been going. And I think that's a great tool to have, because now we're almost 15 years into it. So we have a hit. Go ahead, sir.
And that can also show us how much we've spent on some categories and how much we haven't spent on others. And I've been into that. In fact, it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse in some ways with that open space.
It's not dead yet. It's not dead yet. And Trudy, can we go back to your?
sure, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
that's good.
No,
So the
just,
idea
I
of
just think
having
that the
somebody
applications,
pre-review. Mhm.
yeah, if somebody could review the applications, whether it's 1 or 2 members of this committee or somebody at town hall, so that they're not being rejected on documentation that's not being sent to us with the entire application, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I thought somebody was doing that, but in town hall, but I don't know that it is. And it could be a subcommittee of this group, yes. Leo?
It does make sense. And also we've had several applications over the year, quite a few over the years that did qualify for CPC and according to the rulings. And maybe that can be looked into first, because that not only takes up our time, but I think it embarrasses the applicant if they apply for something that's not covered by CPC rules. And that's happened.
Yeah, that's another thing, because you could speak to them privately and avoid any, yes. Mhm. I just want to recognize, excuse me, Mary Wood has joined the call.
I was on a phone call. Sorry about that. And I suddenly realized it was late. Can you hear
No
me?
worries. You didn't really
And
miss
I'm like,
much.
oh my God.
But I just want to acknowledge you here for the note taker in case
Yes.
she needs help. Catherine needs help. I want to go back to Trudy. I saw her hand raised first.
No, I was just going to say something about Mary as well. I wasn't sure you were going to cover that. So you got it. Thanks.
You're on. John, I saw your hand raised.
Like you, Rick, I'm new to the group and I wondered if in the past any types of site visits have been done. And if that's even plausible when we're looking at an application. Just, I know so many of the locations are familiar to all of us, certainly, but some may not be. And it might sharpen our review of the application if we were to get out where the money would be used.
Thank you. Good idea. Would also give the applicant some time to talk to us outside of a formal meeting. It would have to be a meeting. It would have to be an open OML. We have to post it where we are, what we're going to do. But it would give the applicant a time in situ to see what the money's planned for. Very good. Thank you. Judy.
The two things, if it's a site visit, you don't have to post.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, some people will just to cover their butts, but it's not required to post unless they've changed the law, but I don't think so. And I'm not sure I believe I'm going to say this, but knowing the time it has taken us in the past to get numbers, I would like to volunteer myself to go through the last 15 years town meetings, warrant books, and the minutes, and I will put together a list of what CPC has spent money on.
Thank you.
I'm
That'd
going to
be
take that.
great.
I will take that project on.
That would
Thank
be
you.
great.
And when you get that done, could you do one more thing? Could
Well,
you
it
see how
depends.
much we actually gave them or submit that to the accounting department to see if they could then write on it how much they actually used of that?
You're pushing it, but I'll see what I can do.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Somebody opens the door, I walk in, so.
No, that's okay. Yeah, no, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Last year, to your point, Trudy, last year, I can't remember who sent it around, but someone sent a link around to a state site.
That's right.
And on that state site, you can actually see all of the CPC applications that have come to us, the requested amount, and then the amount that we approve.
So the job doesn't seem as much as I thought it would be. Thank you, John. I will remember that.
Yeah.
Getting easier. Thanks, John. Other ideas about what's working, what's not, and on our deliberations, how is our deliberation process going for people?
Rick, could we back up just a second?
Sure.
Kind of on Leo's point, the recent funding of Maple Woods, I understand puts Wenham over the 10% subsidized housing percent. And I just want to make sure that going forward, we all remember that we've met the 10%. You know, I understand the argument that affordable housing advocates make that, you know, we've got to keep the pipeline growing because the housing stock grows, but I think it's only going to grow a little bit. So I think the elephant has gone through the python and we're past the 10% marker. So we need to remember that.
We're like 13, I think, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
the next thing, see, I'm gonna put my affordable housing hat on, is to start thinking about little a affordable housing, not state mandated, but workforce housing and senior housing that is affordable, but doesn't fall under the income restrictions that the state has. So,
Yeah, I understand there's a difference, right?
yeah, so that's the next chapter. It's the Affordable Housing Trust, not going anywhere. They still have a great role to play in town. Thank you, Alden. Yeah, specifically on that, yeah. Our deliberations, and this is the same question, you know, is our deliberation process okay? Did we take too long? Should we cram it into like 3 nights all in a row and get it all done in 1 week? Should we, I don't know, just think, like, what would make it better for you, particularly people who have been around for a while and doing this multiple years. Some of us, maybe the new people even have better ideas. I don't know.
Can
Well,
we,
Yeah,
Of course.
feel free to speak. I don't need to recognize you. I think we're
Oh.
doing just fine as a group
Uh,
here.
all right, the past couple of years, it's great to get the whole package, but I think we need a few more days because sometimes we only get the full final package the day before. We have to start talking about it, making some decisions. I don't know if we can advance the deadline to give the staff more time to bundle it and provide, forward it to us. It just seems like we only get it a day, like 24 hours or 36 hours before we have to start deciding. And I read every page in the whole thing.
And I think that probably plays into the idea of doing a site visit, right? Because if we're going to need to put a site visit in before we discuss the project with the applicant, that
Mhm.
would need us to have more time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please just speak up. I think we're all good here.
I've been on the committee quite a while, and this is a kind of a discussion or a statement I'm making that kind of criticizes as a small criticism of some of the past committees. Okay, we have a couple of meetings where we listen to the applications, and we question the applicants, and some of these applicants are really, well, I mean, they're eloquent. They can really speak, and some of them are good salespeople. But whether they are or not, we're spending the town's money. It's not our money. And I felt that in the past, some of the committee people, whether it was subconscious, and it probably was subconscious, instead of critiquing the applicant and asking questions, maybe difficult questions, in fact, better if it's difficult questions for the applicant to answer, they would encourage the applicant and almost laud them and almost tell them they should be asking for twice as much. I don't think that's our mission. Our mission is to spend the town's money as efficient and as wise and as desirable for what the town wants, not what we want. And sometimes I've felt that some of the members, and even sometimes I've felt that I liked some applications better than others. Like if an open space application come in, I'd probably be all over it. And I shouldn't be that way. I should act in the town's interest and critique that application and ask difficult questions of that applicant in order to make sure the town is getting the most for their money. That's the way I feel. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but I don't think we should aud the application and laud the application and encourage them to ask for more money if possible,
Yeah, Leo, I agree with you, but I don't want to encourage you.
Well, I don't need encouragement.
We figured that out. Awesome. I agree. I don't know how deep we have to go in. I mean, so take, for example, the plan for the Wenham Museum front yard. How deep do we want to delve into the design and like budget? Like, did you get 3 quotes? Did you, is that what you're
Right.
talking about, Leo?
Yeah, that too,
Yeah. Tough one.
Well,
Other
but you know what,
Go ahead.
Rick, if we're going to talk about giving somebody money, why is it a problem for us to say, how many quotes did you get? I mean, that's a
I didn't
good
say that was a
business.
problem. Should we be
No,
asking?
I
that
I know you didn't. I'm just thinking, I don't know how we rework the process so that we then make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck. I
So
guess.
maybe put that question in the application form, just
Yeah,
ask
good point.
them, how many,
Good point.
how many, comprehensive quotes did you get?
Good
Joe,
point,
does
Al.
that,
Yeah.
Joe, does that follow under the procurement rules? Or does that not apply because it's CPC funding?
I think it does apply in certain situations, depending on how much money it is and if it's an engineering type of project. I think if it's over 50,000, that might trigger 30B, RFPs. I think it kind of depends on what type of project and how much money it is. But I don't
Right.
think, I don't think CPC funds projects are totally exempt from 30B. I don't believe so.
Okay.
So Trudy,
Let
maybe
me-
to your point, we should make that more prominent in the application, that text about 30B.
Well, like, let's say that the museum, I mean, I guess they're considered a nonprofit. They're not really a town agency, so they may not have to go through the same procurement as the police department would if they're asked, if they're going to go out and do this huge project
Right.
that's over $50,000. So if the police department came to us for funding and it was going to be over 50,000, do we require them to go through the procurement rules as if they would asking for regular town money, if that makes sense?
Leo, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm gonna use the landscaping in front of the museum for an example. I think it doesn't matter to us how many quotes they get. I'm sure we believe that whoever applies to us is getting the best deal for whoever they work for. If it's the museum, the manager of the museum is getting quotes to get the best for their money for that, even though it's going to be our money. Now, it's not up to me if I like landscaping in front of the museum. It's up to me to decide if I think the town, the majority of the people in town would like the middle of town, including the museum, to look nice. Now, one barometer I use for that is I asked the applicant, you got donations already for this landscaping project. If you can show me that if you have donations already for this landscaping project with quite a few people in town donating, well, that means, yeah, the town is behind it, the population's behind it. Let's throw some CPC money into it. But if you haven't raised any money, it means that it's not too popular in our town. I use that for a barometer, and I think that's a pretty, probably the best barometer you can get to see what part of the town or how much of the town is interested in a certain project, is how much they've raised on the outside.
So I've got a confession. I didn't really read the applications that detailed last time. So is there a question on the application that asks if there's outside funding or donations that would go towards the project?
I don't
I
think
think-
so.
I think there is, because they asked for other funding sources.
Yes,
I
Okay,
know on the
That's
West
right.
Wenham Playground, they listed
right.
under that question where they
Yeah.
were getting other money.
okay.
So
that would
far.
be the place where they should supply the information.
Right.
Let's
I-
make sure
I
it's in,
think-
maybe we should take that, maybe we should send an
Maybe let's look at
application
the
out this
application
summer.
and rework it.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
yes. Maybe we should do
Also-
that this summer as one of our tasks is to.
I think some of them listed, I think some of them listed because we've asked for, some of us have asked for it in the past, especially me.
Yes.
So have you
Also-
received other funding?
Sorry, Joe.
Nope, that's fine. I was just, I'm actually looking at the application now. Let's see here. Timeline, asked about goals, community need, community support. What is the nature and level of support or opposition for this project? What is the total budget? What funding sources are available, committed or under consideration? Include commitment letters and describe any other attempts to secure funding for this project. So I guess that would include, right, private donations if it says any other attempts to secure funding.
Is that a state application that was provided, or is that one that Wenham created? And should we be looking at other towns and communities at their
Yep,
applications?
that's a good question. This just says Wenham, Massachusetts, Wenham Town Hall, so I'm not sure if there's a separate one for the state, but it's a good. question.
Joe?
Yeah.
The third item you mentioned was community support.
Yep.
And that community support should have a parenthesis, i.e. funding. Right with that one.
I
But
have my
let's take
hand
this on
raised.
as, I'm sorry, Mary?
I have my hand raised.
Yes, please.
Little hand. That also came before the Historic District Commission, that whole landscaping thing.
And you were positively
Um,
supporting the
we
groups?
We were wondering whether it was really necessary.
But it didn't violate any of the historic district.
Oh, I don't think
Laws.
so, no, and I think you'd have to see the plan again, just to see. Because the one thing that, remember the town hall also wanted to put picnic tables and stuff outside to the left-hand side of the town hall as you face them from Bay Road. And we nixed that. We thought it would, then there'd be trash cans and all sorts of stuff. So you have to be careful that it doesn't look too junky from an historic perspective.
Well, doesn't the application process have to get support of another board or committee if it applies? I remember years ago when I wanted to submit for record preservations and I considered them historic documents, I had to go between the Historic Commission to get them designated as historic documents before I could apply to the CPC. So do they have to get other boards to sponsor? I don't know. I'm not that familiar with the application.
Well, that is connected to another topic I wanted to talk, what kind of education do we want? So, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I just want to quickly say, not much different from my previous answer, unfortunately, but to answer Trudy's question, procurement laws do apply in some circumstances. She did rightly say, though, that, for instance, if it's a private entity, generally it's not required. Notably, don't quote me on this, I'm not a lawyer, but it does say the acquisition of real property is waived by 30B, so it's not required. But there's like a little chart here on the CPC website. I'm happy to maybe email to the group. So it kind of depends on what type of projects. But it's
Please.
not,
please
there
send that
are
around.
sometimes where 30B is triggered though, even if it's CPC projects. Yeah.
And Trudy, that gets back to your point of having somebody review this before it gets to the CPC, potentially subcommittee of members here, and that would be one thing they would catch, right?
Yeah. If you don't mind, Rick, I just wanted to go back to Leo's earlier discussion on the bylaw. I found it in the warrant hearing for that year, and it makes it sound like that those of us serving as multi-member boards, we have no term limits. At large have 2 full 3-year terms that they can serve.
Yeah, I'm showing, again, I'm checking with Steve, but there was an amendment made by a resident, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, I
says-
couldn't find the minutes.
It says any at-large member after serving 10 consecutive years shall be ineligible for reappointment until after the next succeeding ATM. Any vacancy on the CPC shall be filled for the unexpired term of the resigning member. And this does look like it was approved by a majority vote. I just don't know if the AG has fully reviewed it yet. But it says after 10 consecutive years, any at-large member shall be ineligible for reappointment.
So that was done back in the fall of, I think, 2021. And I thought, Steve, when this committee started back up for the fiscal year, I thought he told us that it finally passed, the AG finally passed it.
Okay,
So that needs to be added to the new law section on the
Yep.
on the code.
okay, I'll look into that.
So wait, so what does that mean actually for people being appointed from different groups? What does that actually mean?
I don't think we have term limits if you're serving a multi-body, from the way I read it.
Right.
So,
Just says
Okay.
at-large, according to this amendment, at-large members.
And my thinking as to why that is the case is because you have term limits in your own group. Like
Mhm.
planning board's elected, so
Right.
you can either be elected or not. But I think the select board also, for most other committees, determines who's going to be on and have so many limit terms you can service, right? Serve
well, the
in.
housing authority is elected, planning board's elected, conservation's appointed, rec's appointed. They're not.
HDC is appointed.
Yeah, so it's just the planning and housing authority that's elected.
Right. Okay, just want to, this is a good thing. I think it's good that we're talking about this. We have other comments on what we can do better. Okay, my next thing is what should we do in the off season? It's been traditionally, as I understand it, and Leo, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been tradition that we kind of go dead after town meeting, and then in September, October, somebody hits the alarm and people start waking up and we start moving.
I haven't had any problem with
So-
that. There's too much to think about in the summertime. It's too much
I
fun to
understand.
have.
What I was thinking about, I'm a big believer in education. And I'm going to be pushing that, and every time I can talk about anybody in town about more education, because the better we can talk about CPC, the better the town is served by getting more knowledge into it, right? Would there be some interest in maybe having a summer session this summer around, like maybe inviting somebody in from the state on the CPC level to maybe do a seminar with us, maybe a webinar, we could do it here. Talk about trends in it, re-educate us on the buckets and how the buckets work. What do you guys think, folks?
I would
Rick,
definitely participate in that, Rick.
And Alden, I would agree. Rick, you and I met once with Stuart
Mhm.
Saginaw, and actually I've met Trudy and I have met with him. He is so wonderful. He's the person who does all of them for every town, city, whatever. His information is so valuable. It'd be
I-
so
So why
great to do.
Why couldn't we
I-
take that one step farther and maybe like in August or September, have something open to the public who may be interested
Definitely.
in applying, so that they're educated as well as what qualifies as CPC, suggestions on how to fill out the application, the documentation that they may need to provide. I feel like there's another community out there, and I don't know, Joe, correct me, maybe it's Wayland that has like a workshop for CPC. I could be wrong, but more like for the people who's going to apply, not the committee. But I could see that both ways, one for the committee and one for the public, or combine them and do one.
And
Leo, I want to
Stuart
get to
is,
Leo because excuse me, Chairman speaking. Leo, you
That's okay.
got a comment? I don't want to get passed by.
Yeah, I think like Trudy suggested, I think if we had a meeting with the 9 members, or a quorum anyway, and we had Stuart Saginaw at the meeting and have it open to the public so they could ask questions, and potential applicants would be able to know some of the rules and ask some of the rules, so that would prepare them to make sensible applications instead of applications that are not eligible come fall. I
good
think
point,
a
good
meeting
point,
like
Leo.
that
And you
with-
know what?
with a-
But we need to advertise that.
Yeah,
we need
with a
to make-
quorum of the commission, Stuart Saginaw, and that's important, Stuart Saginaw, a quorum of the commission, and open to the public, like Janet mentions, advertised.
Advertise it, put
this
it
way-
anywhere we can.
This way,
Right.
future applicants would make it a point to be there to find out the rules and answer some of their questions.
Thank you.
Sometime in August, sometime in August would be a good time, or early September, before the season starts, before
Right,
we start when in October.
October.
I think
When
September is
when I
better.
call people out by name, when I call people out by name, I'm not picking on them. It's just that I run enough Zoom sessions now that I watch everybody. And if someone's trying to get something in and their sound is not breaking in, I try to stop and recognize them before they lose their train of thought. So don't feel like I'm picking on you. And I'm going to get to Mary because I saw her start to talk and I talked over her. Mary, it's yours.
Are you calling on me?
Yes, you have anything?
I
Are you trying to
think-
say something?
Yeah. Does everybody know how to raise their hand, though?
I would almost prefer the hand raising.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Would
that
you?
little thing.
I do.
go reactions and raise hand, and there it is, and then you can unraise your hand. It's great. And then
Well,
Everybody's
that's fine.
comfortable?
Well, you know what, Mary, that's fine, except Rick made it very clear in the beginning that we're small and we're comfortable with each other. At the beginning of the meeting, he said, just speak up if you'd like to speak up. But you weren't here when he said that.
oh,
And,
okay.
and from my perspective,
But
I
I'm
watch
finding
you.
it's a little hard to get a word in edgewise.
Then you raise your
No.
hand, Mary, and I will find you. Or I try to look at everybody and watch their faces spin around and try to call on you if I see you're being ignored or not here.
So I'm not being ignored, but I think September would be better just because of people's summer schedules. That's my opinion.
I agree with that because it's closer to the work we're going to be doing. And
It's sort of a kickoff for the upcoming application season.
exactly.
Good.
Rick,
It'd be right after Labor Day.
I was just gonna
Yes,
say,
Tom?
Rick, I agree with all of the comments, and I guess sitting here and being new again, saying that again, it would help me if it was some type of a calendar for when we do meet. Even if it's putting dates down that may get moved because of conflicts, but I'm hearing now that we start in October. I came on the board, I think, after the first meeting, so.
Me too.
And then how far do we go? And then we had that crunch time around the time that the applications were coming in and the need to have the applications ready for the select board to review. And so if that is, if it's possible to calendarize all of that, great. I've seen that work very well in walks of life that I've been in. So that way there, at least we can put them in our calendar 3, 4, 5 months out. And if things change, at least we can react to that.
Great idea, John. Thank you.
Sort of
That would
put
be great for
together
the
like a
town to-
timeline,
I'm sorry?
put together like a timeline.
Yeah, a timeline.
And-
Yep. Yep. That's a good, I'm surprised. Maybe Joe, the town needs that, right? Every committee and board, and then just stacked up on one big long spreadsheet so you can see where the critical path is and where the crunch times are going to be, because that will then dictate internally, internal crunch times for your administrative teams, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of did that for town meeting purposes, but it'd be a good idea for
Right.
boards and committees. Yeah.
okay. Other things we should be doing in the off season.
Could I just ask a question? I'm not sure if it's off season, but so are we thinking we will wait till everybody decides whether they want to be reappointed before we reorganizing? Is that what you're thinking, Rick?
Yeah, we cannot reorganize until I think the end of June.
Okay.
When all the
Okay.
committee appointments have been supported and approved, and the individual, like the representative groups, send their person off too.
Makes sense. Thank you.
As I said, I'm not an expert in open meeting law or anything. I try to keep up, but I try to be honest. The number 7, and then we'll have an open discussion on any other topics. The last thing I wanted to get to is I think Leo brought up the idea earlier of having a list, and Trudy's going to help work on that. A list of the projects that we funded. I'm also visibility is kind of important, particularly at a time when things are tight, right? And people will say, well, how important is the CPC? Well, you don't want to say we're really important because, but in subtle ways, the day-to-day reminder of the projects that have been funded might be a nice thing to do. Ideas, comments?
Could you repeat that? I kind of lost you.
Leo, go ahead first, then maybe you can explain it.
It's been mentioned on that. It's been mentioned in the past to get a plaque designed in post one at every project. I don't believe in that. That's going to be an expense, even though it might not be a big expense, and it's an expense. In this, I don't think there's any need for it. We're going to have enough applicants over the years without advertising it. And I think maybe a list that's available to everybody in town, whether it's, might be right on the town website, a list of each year, which applicants receive money from the CPC and how much they got. And it's available, anybody who wants to go to the town website, and they can see it like they can see a lot of other things on the website. I think that's as much advertising as we should do for it.
I like that idea, Leo. I agree with you. And not to give Joe another job, but that would be a great thing to have on the website. As we had talked about earlier, some people get a multiple things, some people get one and whatever. It would be really great to have people see where is the money going, either year by year or cumulative or whatever. I like that idea.
Right on the website. I think that's
Maybe under the CPC. This
Yeah.
is what we
Yeah.
have funded.
yeah.
This is what we have funded for. And Joe, if you want, sorry, Joe, I'd ask you to do another job. But if that's something that you think, or we all think maybe would be a good thing, I'd be willing to help with organizing that.
So I'm looking at the website now, and under CPC, it's got a link that says CPA applications 2023 submitted. Maybe after July, or maybe even sometime now, under that link, put the projects that we approved at town meeting, and then maybe occasionally update that as the projects start moving along, and either post pictures or when the project's finished. I mean, we could certainly use the website for that information.
Good point. Yeah, good, very good point.
And I'll fill in, Trudy, for you a little bit more of what I was thinking on this topic. People forget good. People forget the good stuff. Usually people remember the negative stuff, right? And my idea of putting some kind of plaque or notification at the project is that people will be reminded physically when they go and sit in that park or sit in that front of the museum where their tax money went. Because my fear is, as things are going to get tighter and tighter in the next 5 to 10 years, fiscally here, one thing that is an easy target, if it's not in the forefront of the public mind, I believe is CPC. It's the 3% tax that can be cut or eliminated. And so I'm just doing outreach, right? The idea of having the session where the public's invited is more outreach. It's how do we get our brand out there? How do we get the good work? And these little $200 plaques might be another way to do that. So it's up to the group. We can't vote on anything today. It's really just for discussion.
I actually
I
think
think
that's
that's
a
a nice
nice
idea.
idea. I mean, every
Yeah.
time I go to the museum, I look down at the bricks to see whose names
I
contributed
do
to that
too.
pathway every time I look at them. And I think a plaque, would be nice. And maybe that's up to the applicant to provide once the project is done. Maybe we can make that a requirement that with, use $200 of the CPC money we're giving you to put a plaque by your project or something. I don't know.
Yes,
I know when the Maplewood project was approved, there was an email that went around about a photo that would be taken, and the CPC was invited to be part of that photo. I didn't go. I had a conflict that day, but I think to your point, Rick, if we can promote that kind of willingness to be not only part of the process to fund activity, but also to recognize and to congratulate, if you will, when a project does move forward. I think you're right. It does form a tighter bond with people in the community, which may not happen when the vote is taken, town meeting is over, and people move on. So I'm for anything that can reasonably, at a reasonable cost, Leo, to your point, I'm for anything that can, show how the community came together to support a project.
Well, we're gonna put. Then
John,
we would put-
John, I agree with you. I also could not go that day. And maybe I've missed it, whatever, but I feel as if there should have been something on social media, even on the Wonderful World of Wenham Facebook page or the Hamilton Wenham Facebook page, that showed what happened that day. I was unable to go also because I had a conflict with my work, But I agree with you. I think the more here we do, which I think is what Rick's talking about, makes a lot of sense.
The $200 is a little bit of it because we give five or six a year, so that's $1,000. But boy, that means we're going to put a, if we do that, we're going to put a plaque at the new turf field, and they're going to think we gave 17 million to build a turf field, and I don't want my name on that.
But we will work on, is again, just discussion, trying to find out where people are at. And it might not be a plaque, it might be in a program at their opening, you know, we can figure out what the recognition level needs to be, but based on the project too. But definitely, I want to keep that in our
And
idea.
and just so everyone knows, I wasn't looking to have my name put on anything either. I think it's the committee. The
It's not our
CPC.
name, no.
It's not our names.
No, it just be Town of Wenham Community Preservation Committee. What year? And that's about it. Oh, yeah, no.
Right.
We will not be remembered.
No.
Other topics that people want to talk about? I'm going to keep this to an hour and a half. It is an hour and a half. An hour.
Can I just talk about the plaques?
Yes, Mary?
Look at what the community house did. I think that's so nice. What they did in front with all the bricks and the granite stones. I mean,
Are they donor stones? Like names of the donors on them? I haven't been there yet.
well, no, you could buy a stone. I mean, I bought one in my husband's name, but it said Michael N. Wood and all of his dogs. It wasn't a memorial. It didn't have dates or anything like that. People put whatever they wanted, and it's really nice.
I think that's
If anybody hasn't seen that.
That's a great idea for people who took money out of their own pockets and donated. It's absolutely right, like the bricks at the museum and so forth. I think that's a very good idea, but the CPC giving money, I think it's $200 wasted, tell you the truth. Why?
I think you're right, Leo. I think you're right. This is personal money versus town money.
That's right.
This is not our money that we are doing. It's money for the town. So the bricks are a great idea, Mary, but it's not town money.
No, I'm not suggesting that for CPC. I'm just sort of saying, in general, it was a fundraiser. But CPC,
And I
I
think-
think having a list on the website or something like that of the projects, et cetera, is good.
Yeah, I think we can start with a list and get that going. Absolutely. Do we have any other general topics for discussion tonight? Hearing none?
Mr.
I wanna
Chairman,
thank-
I would like to move we adjourn.
I
Ah,
second.
Leo,
Second
I
it.
love it. I'm gonna second it.
I beat you to it. I second it.
Oh, gosh. We're gonna fight over who's gonna second these things now. All in favor, roll call vote, please.
Trudy,
Aye.
yes.
Leo, yes.
Alden, yes.
Mary,
Jen,
John.
yes.
John, yes.
Rick, yes. Well, I want to thank you all. Thank you for this meeting, and I've got some good energy. The minutes, as soon as Ms. Tinsley can get to them, will be sent around, and I think we're going to have a good summer. And I'll keep you posted and reach out to me about a summer meeting. And I love this idea of an early September.
And all of you, happiness and good health.
Thank you.
folks. Have a great summer.
Oh, and
Thank you,
everybody,
Joe.
bring your plants in tonight. It's gonna freeze.
Already have.
Okay.
Good to
night.
Good night,
know.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Good night.
thanks, Rick. Good night, everybody.
Go Celtics.